Kahun is a product that will be the front door that starts communicating with the patient, either when a patient schedules an appointment or when a patient actually comes in to the clinic, or it could be in a telemedicine consultation with a physician. Kahun will first take the first step and have a conversation with the patient. It will be in a chatbot or some kind of digital interface. And Kahun will ask the question, will really mimic the thought process of taking a history from a patient. Taking a history from a patient requires knowledge and understanding of what the patient is describing and what are the diseases that need to be suspected and the follow-up questions.
Michal Katz, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thank you, Michal. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this 20 minutes.
I'm really excited to dive into your world in these 20 minutes. You are the co-founder and chief medical officer at Kahun Medical, and you're looking at evidence-based clinical reasoning tool for physicians. So this whole integration of AI and humans, especially when it comes to the medical scene, it's truly fascinating in a world in which AI is becoming such a prominent, theme within our work and such an integrator and creating a step function for our ability to leverage these tools to do our job better and at scale, of course. And so I have a lot of questions about what you're doing, and it's going to be really fun and interesting. So tell me first a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the whole medical scene? I know you were previously at several hospitals within Israel. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background.
Okay, great. So we'll start there. So first, it's true. I mean, what I'm doing and what I'm dedicating my life right now is to building tools to incorporate the AI with clinical thinking, human clinical thinking of medical practice. And that's what I've been doing for the past few years. But it all started, as you're trying to ask it, way back. I mean, I started medical school after I was already a programmer, a computer scientist, and I worked as a programmer for a few years, and then only then I started med school. So I started pretty late, at the age of 27, and I think the whole medical education for me was a little bit different than your average medical student, because I was already thinking, how could we do this different? I was always thinking, how can we do this different? How can we do this better? How can I educate myself with all this knowledge? You know, when you study medicine, you start with the preclinical studies. You study the basics. You study the anatomy and the biophysics and the biochemistry and then the pathology and so on and so on. It's a learning process that is in layers, and it's very primitive. You get to memorize a lot of stuff and then build it layers by layers until you get to the clinical understanding of diseases, and only then you get into working in the words and when you complete medical studies and you go out into the real world, and when I started, my residency, really working in hospitals and utilizing all the knowledge that I learned in the real life. Again, it's amazing how it's only based on what this tool has, and there are no tools that help me become more better at what I'm doing. So it came from there. It was a long process, understanding that that there is a need to make us better because we are limited as physicians, as humans. Yeah. And it's amazing how technology, is everywhere in every field of our lives. But for some reason, in medical practice, it wasn't yet. It hasn't yet. Was never incorporated into that.
Well, let me ask you then. To even understand what are the possibilities. So you understand the limit. You're limited by nature. How can you now understand what the opportunities are? So what do you need to do in order to get from where you're currently at, and to know how you can leverage technology to make that step function?
So This is a great question, because it's not like you can take technology and make it do what we do as physicians. It will never take over everything, all the aspects of being a physician. But there are some parts, and you have to understand that what professional physicians do is incorporate knowledge and experience and the clinical skills that you build up and grow during your career. And some tools can help in these different aspects. It's not one tool that can help everything. So it's, first of all, being open-minded to incorporating tools into the way we work. So there are tools that help us in the productivity, and there are tools that help us in imaging and pathologies and so on. But there are also tools that need to help us in clinical thinking, and this is what excites me, and this is what excites me, because this is the core of practicing medicine, is the decision-making process. It's what we do in every moment of our lives, as when we manage patients. It's everything that we have to do. It's when we question our patients, and when we examine them, and when we are thinking of which exams they need to do for further workup, and we will decide about the diagnosis, and when we decide about the treatment. So many decisions, and in these core decisions, there are no tools.
Right. All right. So let's talk a little bit about Kahun Medical. So what are you guys doing, and how are you leveraging deep technology to do exactly this?
Okay, so when we started, I was already completed my residency in Ichilov in Soraski Medical Center here in Tel Aviv, and we started meeting together. Me, Tal, and Eitan. These are my two co-founders here at Kahun, and I know them. We are friends from like way back, because when I was working as a programmer, I was actually working in company that they founded, and later on the company was sold to LivePerson, if you know this company, maybe. And Tal and Nathan know each other from even way before, like from high school, but we also are friends for a long time, and we started to talk about how we can leverage technology into what physicians do. And what we started at the beginning is we said that the core, the biggest gap for bringing tools into physicians' workflow is bridging a gap between the knowledge, the scientific knowledge that we as physicians base our decisions upon, into a structured format, so that we can use algorithms to use this knowledge, but it had to be very accurate. That's, medicine is about accuracy. Yeah. It's an evidence-based science. It's not based on big data. It's not based on, when I'm as a physician, when I make a decision, I have to base it on evidence. I have to be updated with the latest evidence. And so this was what we started up doing, is we started by building a language that describes, a structured language that describes medical knowledge between all the understanding of diseases, their pathology, their pathophysiology, which means their time course of diseases, and their manifestations, and all the statistical strength that comes from the literature, and the epidemiological data that comes from the literature. And all this is captured into a knowledge graph. This is the core of Kahun's technology. It's the knowledge graph representation of medical literature. And that was the beginning. And then we started building a very initial proof of concept before we started Kahun, before we started building the company. We built a proof of concept, and when we were, this took about a year that we worked on this before we started Kahun. And when we were convinced that this is a way that could work on a vast majority of disciplines in medical areas, then we started building it from scratch in scale.
Interesting. And so what is the actual product that you're providing to physicians and in their workflow? How is sort of this human-computer interaction taking place?
So now that we have this, and it keeps, getting updated, and it keeps growing all the time, this knowledge graph that holds the knowledge, and the algorithmic layer that mimics the thought process of a physician. And this technology is, and what we do with it right now is we build tools that are guiding the work of physicians when patients are coming for any medical services. So Kahun is a product that will be the front door that starts communicating with the patient, either when a patient schedules an appointment or when a patient actually comes in to the clinic, or it could be in a telemedicine consultation with a physician. Kahun will first take the first step and have a conversation with the patient. It will be in a chatbot or some kind of digital interface. And Kahun will ask the question, will really mimic the thought process of taking a history from a patient. Taking a history from a patient requires knowledge and understanding of what the patient is describing and what are the diseases that need to be suspected and the follow-up questions. And, we're working in a market that is very that has different tools like symptom checkers and stuff like that. But the aim of symptom checker is more to try and guess what the patient has or to give the patient information about their medical condition. The conversation that Kahun performs with the patient is not trying to guess what the patient has. It's
getting the raw information so that later you can leverage it in a structured way. I get that. And so tell me a little bit about, what you've learned about having meaningful interactions with patients. So what do you need to keep in mind as you're building an AI platform that is going to be speaking to patients? Because essentially what we're talking about is we have, natural language processing is a huge field. Chatbots are hugely emerging. We've seen the likes of ChatGPT, et cetera, over recent years. What is sort of the fine tuning that you need to do for the medical space in order for this to be a good product?
I'm very glad you brought this up, because this is what Kahun does when Kahun communicates with a patient. It's not about the ability to communicate the language. It's about performing the clinical reasoning that is needed to ask the questions that are most important, that are most significant in the patient's presentation. So it's not just about a patient coming in and describing what they're complaining about and having a conversational AI that understands what the patient is saying. It's about being able to ask the patient questions that are relevant to what they're describing. And as the data is accumulated during the conversation, again, the different diseases should be suspected and different questions need to come up. So it's the engine that drives the questions, not just understanding what the patient is saying, but the engine that drives what we need to seek from the patient. That's what Kahun is about. It's not so much about the conversational AI. It's just one part of it. It's more about the clinical reasoning, the methodologic, academic reasoning that is the core of what Kahun does, and it's almost like complementary on top of conversational AI and natural language processing. They complement each other in a way, and together we can really have a high level, I can say even a gold standard history taking from a patient. And this is just the first part. Collecting data from a patient in a conversation is just one part of data collection that needs to be done. It's the subjective part. It's asking the patient what they're feeling and what they're experiencing and what risk factors they have and so on. It's just one part of it. And then there's the objective data collection, looking at from the physician point of view. It's searching for which findings I need to look at on a physical examination. Again, the same engine is used, the same engine of Kahun that drives what I need to look for. Maybe I need to look for an enlarged liver in this patient. Maybe I need to check if they have peritoneal signs in their abdomen and so on. And then, and this goes on and goes on, this data collection process. And Kahun continues the whole path, all the way to the diagnosis and later on the treatment. So it's not that this initial data collection in the chatbot is just the beginning of the journey.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And so what is your role as chief medical officer in a company like this? And what does a chief medical officer even do? And the third question is, why is it the coolest job that anybody can have?
Okay, that's a good question. And it is the coolest job ever. So I think, okay. What do I do as a chief medical officer is to, it's more, building a company that is trying to really bring or change something so fundamental in the process of how physicians work and what physicians use to improve their clinical decision making, is about understanding the needs of the providers, understanding medicine and how complex it is, and how we can capture all this complexity and in the algorithms, and working together with different teams. So there's the development team, which is fantastic, and there's the medical team at Kahun, and which are amazing also. And it's about communicating between the needs and the complexity of the medicine and the way that we try to answer and solve these problems technology wise. So I guess I'm all over the place.
When you people think about when your role in Kahun, what is sort of your lighthouse? When you think about the chief medical officer, and specifically you within your mission to provide these tools to be able to allow at scale to help more people. So where's sort of your core here in this mission? What do people look to you for?
So the healthcare system. The good thing about it is there's so much to do, because so much can be improved for us to give better care for patients, and the market is changing all the time. And we had the pandemic, and we have different technologies that are coming out and are opportunities for us, and we have to look at them and see how they can we can use different technologies and aspects of the market to really bring Kahun to that vision of incorporated into the workflow of physicians, mm-hmm. to help them make more informed decisions along the journeys of managing patients. And I think in the company, this is how I feel that I there is always that point of vision of what Kahun is aimed to be. And we always have, even in this changing market, we always have to keep on track and bring this to life, because it is so important to bring it to life.
I completely agree. What do you enjoy most about your work?
Well, I mean, it has to be the people that I'm working with, because we have a great team here, and we have, it's such a joy working with these fantastic people who are dedicated to the mission that we're all working on together. And it's fun, and we have a very good environment here, fruitful environment for everyone that can bring in their creativity and ideas, and we'll have amazing discussions all the time on how to solve the problems that come up all the time. And it's just working with these people. This is what I love, and
it definitely sounds like it. And it sounds like you're out to do a really positive impact with Kahun, and it sounds like your role is sort of this integrator and being the focal point of the medical scene with the AI scene and the development and the product, and understanding the complexities of the patients and the complexities of the system, and being at a time in which we're under an AI revolution. And a lot of the technology is being made accessible, and you're specializing in how to bring this layer of professionalism in the medical scene to the way that the people can converse with it, and that, at least that's part of what we talked about early on in the beginning. But then having the professional knowledge from the domain that you're in to be able to actually leverage that and provide a higher level of intelligence than the traditional systems, right?
Yes.
Wonderful. And Michal, I really want to thank you for coming here. This was really great, and I really appreciate the time, and it can tell how big of a believer you are in sort of this integration of everything that you're doing, and big believer in how technology is coming in the intersection of this field. And so, again, thank you very much for the time and for the inspiration. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.